Hi everyone. So this video is intended to be for anyone who's new to bleeding and wants to know more about all the different period products available to them, or anyone who has been bleeding for a while and just wants to know a bit more about some newer products out there and reusable products that they could use instead. I will step through all your different period product options such as pads, tampons, menstrual cups, menstrual discs, intralabial pads and period underwear. And I'm going to start off first with the disposables. So the two main disposables are pads and tampons. Most young girls will start off with pads when they get their first period just because they're external and easier to use to begin with. You can alternatively choose to use any one of the other period products. It's completely up to you, your body, your choice. So there are lots of different types of pads based on the length of the pad or the thickness of the pad, depending on the heaviness of your flow and whether it has wings or not. So you may find that you want to use different types of pads for different times in your menstrual cycle, depending on the flow, whether it's day or night, or whether you're doing different activities. Like if you're doing different types of sport, you may want a different type of pad. For example, I haven't actually used a pad in years, but when I did, I would use a panty liner for the lighter days of my cycle and a thicker pad for the heavier days of my cycle, which was sort of day 2 and 3. Pads should also be changed every few hours to reduce the risk of bacteria gathering and potentially causing a sort of infection. So I'm gonna open a pad here. It's been years. So you can kind of just open it and then take the sticky part off the back. And what you would do is just stick this onto your underwear and then remove this sticky bit there. So if that's on your underwear, you would then get the wings and fold that underneath to hold it in place. Other pads may not have wings. It's completely up to you what you sort of prefer and what you need. Some people may not find wings comfortable going because of the contact with their legs and thighs. Yeah. Pro tip, I also prefer to fold a square of toilet paper and place that on top of the pad when I was wearing them, just so I can then just change that toilet paper on the top every hour or something and feel a bit more clean and just hygienic with going about my day. Tampons are another disposable option that you can use. So it's basically a wad of cotton that will soak up the blood, and it has a string attached to it which you can use to pull it out. A tampon can be inserted with your fingers or with an applicator, and it can be a bit tricky. If you're having trouble inserting the tampon, remember to just take a few deep breaths and kind of just squat a little bit, or you can put one of your feet, your legs on top of the toilet seat to get an angle that might be easier to sort of insert the tampon in. One thing that I found really useful when I think about it is if your lips are loose, your body kind of opens up. So just open your mouth and let your jaw hang loose, and that will help all your sphincters open at the same time. That's a piece of advice that I read in Ina May Gaskin's Ina May's Guide to Childbirth, and it applies to childbirth but also equally at other times when you kind of just want your body to open up a bit. If it's not working, don't worry about it. Don't stress yourself out about getting it right the first time. Just take a break and try again when you feel ready. I remember the first time that I tried to use a tampon when I was 13 years old, and I was about to go to the beach with my family on a public holiday when I realized that I got my period. So I asked my mum if we could go to the supermarket to go and grab some tampons, and she said yes. So we quickly rushed off to the supermarket as soon as it opened, which was a bit later than usual, being a public holiday, and I grabbed the first box I could find because I was so embarrassed to be in the period aisle in the supermarket, and I accidentally grabbed a super large pack. Being a little 13-year-old, I probably should have gotten a small or extra small, because my body was just a lot smaller than was probably right for this super large tampon. But nevertheless, I was in the bathroom sweating buckets, my face was getting really hot, and just I was really uncomfortable, but I managed to get it in, and I spent the whole car ride to the beach just wincing at every bump in the road, and grabbing my cousin's hands next to me because it hurt so much. So if you're feeling like you're in pain, you probably haven't put it in correctly. So just take it out and use a fresh tampon and give it another go when you feel up to it. That one experience ended up putting me off tampons for a few years, and I was 16 by the time I finally decided to give them another go. So there are obviously a few different sizes of tampons that you can try depending on your flow and obviously your body size as well. As a young 13-year-old, like I said, I probably shouldn't have been trying a super large tampon at that stage. Another thing to watch out for with tampons is toxic shock syndrome. So always remember to wash your hands before and after you insert or remove a tampon, and make sure that you do change it every 8 hours. So on the back of the box, on the bottom of the box, there will be a warning to say that tampon use has been associated with toxic shock syndrome, which is a rare but serious disease. So this is a slim regular tampon that I've got here with approximately 11 grams absorbency, suitable for a medium flow. And I would need to change this at least every 8 hours, if not more often, just to make sure that it's reducing that risk of toxic shock syndrome from the bacteria gathering in the tampon. It's nothing you need to worry about. As long as you're washing your hands and changing your tampons regularly, there should really be no risk to you. It's just sometimes there are some people who tend to forget that they've got a tampon in them and then leave them in for a few days potentially, which can result in toxic shock syndrome. You can also buy organic cotton tampons as opposed to the generic supermarket variety. So that's just if you want a bit more reassurance about the material that you're putting inside your body. Next, I'm going to discuss the reusable options. So first up, we've got the period underwear. So I bought 3 pairs of the bikini style period underwear about 4 years ago, and it was a complete game changer. So I've had the worst luck with my periods coinciding with camps, flights, exams, just anything important in my life really. And so it's been such a big, sort of liberating kind of moment for me to be able to have my mind stay calm and focus on what I want without being distracted by my period. I have been using the same period underwear for the last 4 years, just 3 pairs for every month over the last 4 years, and it's still going strong. I probably should get around to replacing them soon, but so far so good. So I bought the Thinx period underwear, which was one of the few brands that was available at the time 4 years ago, but there's a lot more options out there now. Like I think there's Modi Body, Love Luna, Eve, Bonds, and even a Kmart brand, I'm pretty sure. So feel free to try them and let me know what you think, because I'm keen to try some other brands as well. So the period underwear has 4 layers, and basically the first layer is a moisture wicking layer that will stop you feeling as wet after you bleed. The second layer is an odor controlling layer that will trap the bacteria and kind of trap the smell associated with the bleeding. And then there's a third layer that's a super absorbent layer that will kind of trap all the moisture in there. And then finally the last layer is the leak-proof, waterproof layer that will prevent the blood from going onto your clothes. Depending on your flow, you may want to change your period underwear more often, but I can usually go about 8 hours, sometimes even a full day of wearing it on the lighter days. If I want to feel a bit cleaner, I will just put in a square of triple folded toilet paper on top of my period underwear, just so I can keep changing that layer as often as I want without it necessarily flowing through onto my period underwear. You can also double protect yourself and wear a tampon with your period underwear if you like, or sometimes I do my menstrual cup and my period underwear, just so if there is any leaks, it's going onto my period underwear, and I can just hand wash this when I'm done and then chuck it into the washing machine after the blood flows through and the water is clear. So there's different styles of period underwear that come with all these different brands. Like I mentioned, I have the bikini style because that's my preferred underwear style anyway. But there's also a boy short, a thong. I think there's different apparel type period products as well, like you know, running shorts and leggings and things like that. I think there might even be a swimwear with some of the brands. So have a look at their websites and check it out. In terms of laundry, like I mentioned, I just hand wash my period underwear with cold water until it runs clear, and then I chuck it in my laundry basket with the rest of my clothes and just wash it like I normally would with the rest of my clothes, and do a cold cycle. Next, I'm going to talk about reusable pads. So I've seen a lot of people online talking about reusable pads, but unfortunately I haven't tried them. So reusable pads have a similar shape to a normal pad with the wings, but as the name suggests, they are reusable. So the top layer is a soft fleece layer that sits against your skin, and the bottom layer is the waterproof layer, similar to what we'd have with the period underwear. And in the middle, there's a super absorbent layer that will trap the moisture in there. So the pad has wings with a clip on either side, and so basically that folds underneath like a pad wing and clips together to hold it in place on your underwear. It's a really good reusable option if you want something that is reusable but not internal, like a menstrual cup or menstrual disc, and then you just have that reassurance that you're not, you know, creating more waste that's going into the environment, and it's something that you can wash and reuse, so you're probably saving quite a bit of money there as well. You can wash your reusable pads by hand and then just machine wash like normal. Like I said, I haven't tried them myself, but that's just another option that's available there. Next, I'm going to talk about intralabial pads. So intralabial pads are another type of reusable pad, which I have not tried, but like the reusable pads, they can be reused and washed, hand washed and then machine washed. But unlike a reusable pad, it's not sitting flat against your underwear, it's actually sitting in the middle of your labia. So I haven't got one to demonstrate, but I've just cut a piece of felt to show you a basic shape of an intralabial pad, and just to give you an idea of what it looks like. So it's a piece of fabric which is super absorbent, and it's stitched in the middle of the two cotton layers that can be folded up into various shapes and placed between your labia to hold the blood flow. I'm going to try and replicate some of the folds with this piece of felt that I've cut here. So just bear with me as I try and demonstrate this. So some of the folds are a fold like this, or you could then roll it lengthways, and that will just sit, if that was your body there, it would be sitting like this underneath. You could also roll it widthways, which is just rolling like that, and then this would be sitting between your labia, like so. Or you could also do an origami shape, which is where you fold it like this and then fold it in half, and this part there is sort of inserted in your labia to kind of catch any blood that's coming out and gather it in this absorbent intralabial pad. A lot of people who use intralabial pads find that it's really useful to kind of, as you can see, channel the blood flow before it has a chance to go in a certain direction on your clothing. So if you're someone who bleeds to the front or the back, based on the shape of your labia and your body that's unique to you. This is something that's recommended by people who use intralabial pads, as they find it quite useful to kind of just act as that mechanism to channel the blood flow into this pad, rather than with something like period underwear or pads where you don't have the ability to channel the blood in a particular direction. Next, I'm going to talk about menstrual cups. So I've been using a menstrual cup for about 3 years now, and I personally found it really useful. Saved me a lot of money, better for the environment, very comfortable. I have recently switched to discs, but I will get to that soon. So they're reusable cups that can be used for about 8 to 12 hours depending on your flow, and then tipped out. For some people, they may change it more often if they've got a much heavier flow. It really is up to you and how secure you feel about the amount of blood that you have coming out of you, and whether you, just for your own reassurance, you may want to just change it more often. So like I said, you just tip them out, wash them and reinsert it. You can wear them to sleep, you can wear them when you go swimming, so that's a really good option if you don't want to wear tampons. They are quite tricky to start inserting and removing to begin with, so I suggest you check out my other video on menstrual cup folds and tips and tricks for inserting and removing a menstrual cup. I personally like wearing menstrual cups because they're very comfortable, they're good for the environment and eco-friendly, and they've saved me a lot of money. I haven't bought pads and tampons in years now, so it's definitely something to try if you want something a bit more budget friendly. It is quite a big upfront investment in buying a cup or a disc, but there are some reusable discs you can try as well if you want just something to see if it works for you or not. So there are a number of quizzes you can try online if you want to try and find a cup that works for you. You can check out the Put a Cup in It quiz on the Menstrual Cup group on Facebook. There's Menstrual Cups Australia, Put a Cup in It community. On each of the Menstrual Cup brand pages, there's also a quiz that's specific to the menstrual cups that they sell. This is a Fleur cup, which is one of the options that came up for me when I did the quiz, and the cup that they recommend for you, or range of cups they recommend for you, will vary based on the length of your cervix, whether your cervix is tilted forwards or backwards. Mine is inverted, so it's the opposite of what everyone else's is. So it's just a normal variation. So based on that, the cup that you will have recommended to you may change. The type of cup that you use may also change on different days of your cycle. I know there's some people who have a huge collection of menstrual cups and will use different cups for different days of their cycle depending on their flow and the height of their cervix. Also potentially people who use cups for other purposes, such as just collecting discharge at different times of their cycle, may have a different height of their cervix at that time of their cycle, since they're using it for a different purpose. So they may find that they want a different cup specifically for that time that fits better. So do the quiz and see what works for you. Unfortunately, it may take a few tries to find a cup that really works. There are Facebook pages as well where people will sell their menstrual cup secondhand and sell them a lot cheaper than a new cup. And if you boil it and sterilize it, it's as good as new. I did buy mine new, but I would have no issues with buying a secondhand one either. The price of a menstrual cup and a disc can be steep, so that's probably an option if you want to try something a bit cheaper and see if it works for you. Like I said, inserting and removing a cup can be a bit tricky. So there's a number of different folds you can do, which you can check out in my other YouTube video. The one that I do is the punch down fold, which just goes like this, and it kind of just, you punch down on the cup and hold it there, and then that gives it a really narrow end for inserting up into you. Inserting a cup is similar to inserting a tampon in that you want to find the position that works best for your body, whether that's kind of squatting into sort of a low squat or more just like a higher squat, or have one leg on top of the toilet seat to get that angle that's like a high lunge, to be able to find the best angle for insertion. I also really find it easier to have my mouth open, because when your mouth is open, all your sphincters open, so your cervix is a sphincter, and that will kind of just open up and enable you to just be a bit more relaxed and breathe easier when you're trying to insert the cup if it's a bit tricky. Removing it as well, something that you don't want to do is bear down when you're removing it. Unfortunately, this is something that I used to do when I first started using a cup, which is why I have now switched to a disc, because I just find a disc a lot easier to remove without bearing down. Discs also don't have any suction, but I will get to that in a second. So when you're removing the cup, what you want to do is kind of just get into a low squat, hold onto the stem, insert your fingers into your vagina, hold onto the stem, and just wiggle the stem a bit to kind of ease it out, and then try and grab it and break the seal on the cup with the suction, and then just empty out into the toilet or the shower, wherever you choose to dump the contents of the cup. And once you've got it out of you, you can wash it and just give it a quick rinse, wipe it clean, and insert it back again. So menstrual discs are another great option. I have this Luma size small disc right here, and I've only used it for one cycle so far, but I really like it. So the reason that I switched to a disc is I had a few friends who have been using the disposable discs, and they wanted to get a reusable disc to use. So I thought I might as well just jump straight onto the reusables and get one. So I ordered 2 reusable discs from Luma. It was just the same price to order 2, so I got 2, and the small really works for me, so I didn't even bother trying the medium. And the main reason that I decided to try it is I was finding it quite hard to remove my cup without bearing down, just because of the height of my cervix, and I found that I could only do it in the shower because I had to get into a really low squat. So it made it a bit tricky if I ever had to remove my cup in a public space where potentially I don't have the flexibility to get into a low squat in a toilet, and hovering over the toilet doesn't give me the room to really get low. So I was quite concerned about that, because I also have an IUD, and I didn't want to risk affecting the position of my IUD by pulling out the cup and potentially affecting the suction of my IUD. There have been instances where people have pulled out a cup and also pulled out their IUD with it. So that was one of the big incentives for me to try a disc. I just want to reiterate that it is absolutely safe and fine to use a menstrual cup or disc while you have a copper IUD or any other hormonal IUD. I have talked to my gynecologist about it, and they're completely fine with it. But based on me and my body, I just find that it is harder for me to remove it without bearing down. So because of my body size and type, and the size of my cervix, maybe the length of my fingers, and trying to reach for it, it just makes sense for me to try a disc rather than a cup. So the disc is a lot easier because it doesn't need suction to stay in place. You basically just pinch the disc in the middle, and then if this was your vagina there, you would be inserting it like so, and then releasing, and the string just sticks out, and you can use the string to just pull it out. But it would basically just sit cupped around your cervix. So if you're putting it in and you feel something that feels like the end of your nose, like a soft nubby type thing, that's your cervix, and you just want it to sit snugly around your cervix there to collect all of the blood that comes out, which can then just be pulled out. For adults and older teens watching, the menstrual disc can also be used during sex if that's what you want to do. But while it does look like a diaphragm, be warned, it cannot be used as a form of birth control. So I've heard from friends first-hand experience that it is highly effective at working whilst you're having sex, but just be warned that it's only for the purpose of collecting menstrual blood, not preventing pregnancies or to be used as any type of contraception. So that's it from me. I hope you find this video informative and it's helped you make a decision on the different types of period products that you would like to try. Please feel free to leave a comment below if you have any questions or comments. For our older listeners for my older audience members who are bleeders, I do have friends who have also been intimate with their partners using a disc. So that is also an option if you want to do that. It does say on their website, but I've had first-hand recounts from some of my friends that it is very effective. So it's something to think about if you want a mess-free experience. I find the disc a lot easier to insert because, as you can see, it's soft in the bottom compared to my cup, which has a hard wall everywhere, right? This is quite hard compared to the disc, which can just go poof. So because of that, I just find it easier to insert, and there's no suction, so I don't have to worry about my IUD when I'm removing it. It doesn't stay in place with suction, but both the disc and menstrual cup can be dislodged slightly when you go to the toilet, because while you're using all those muscles to pee or poo, it's just pushing in the same direction, so it may kind of dislodge it slightly and you might see a bit of blood come out when you're going to the toilet. So don't worry about that, it's just been moved a little bit. Just put your finger back in and just check the rim of the disc and check that it's firmly in place around your cervix, and you should be fine. The first time I went out with my disc in and I went out for lunch, I went to the bathroom at the restaurant and I completely freaked out when I saw a lot of blood coming out. So luckily I was in a cubicle that had a sink, and I just removed it, washed it, put it back in, and it was fine. But now that I think about it, it was probably just because I went to the toilet, and if I had just put my fingers in, checked that it was in place, that would have been enough for me. So if you want to give a disc a go, you can actually buy a set of So if you want to give a disc a go, you can actually buy a set of disposable menstrual discs. I think you can buy like a set of 8 or 12 online, like flex discs maybe, just to see if the shape and the concept of it works for you before you invest in a reusable one.